Yearning to play a few rounds of Gwent. That ought to set me straight.
It's Commander's Horn, episode 77. Today, Greyboxer and I are going to be discussing Gwent Homecoming, a new update from the dev team that outlines the game's trajectory over the next 6 months. This is a huge piece of news that sets expectations, so you can ensure that the long-standing fans will look at it very critically. Plus, we have a new patch, some visual upgrades, and some time with the chat. This episode of Commander's Horn is live. Good afternoon, my friends. It is April 17th, 2018. A great day for your weekly Gwent podcast. I am Dane McBeard, and today I am joined by the original pirate Viking gangster, the Midnight Viking himself, Greyboxer. Welcome back to the podcast.
What's up, McBeard? What's up, everybody? Glad to be back in the Commander's Horn live studios. I've been too long away at sea.
Yes, well, sure. The choppy waters of Gwent have kept many a sailor not really knowing where land can be found. So, and we're getting a lot of feedback from the Gwent community, from large personalities and small, about how we feel about Gwent as we have received information about Gwent Homecoming. So that is going to be the central point of this entire podcast, talking about Gwent then and now and in the future, what it has meant to us and kind of what we think it's going to be in the future. So we should definitely dig in. The main mast. We should definitely dig in for sure. So let's get this out of the way. This episode of Commander's Horn is being recorded live, recorded on Twitch on my channel at twitch.tv/McBearded. You can find all episodes of Commander's Horn at commandershorn.com. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, other podcasting apps, always picking up the feed. Send your emails to commandershornpodcast@gmail.com or tweet at us at commandershorn.
This week's show is brought to you by our sponsor, Melena's Mapping Service. We elves have our paths, and now you can too. Take any path you like, but this map disintegrates in 6 months. Just kidding. This episode of Commander's Horn is brought to you by our commandos! Our patrons over at patreon.com/Commander's Horn. Thanks for keeping the mics on and the podcast actually ad-free.
I love that you actually worked a map, like the roadmap episode, into this ad. That's good, because you guys know that when Greyboxer is on the podcast, he does the fake ad. So I just got to say, tip of the cap, my friend, tip of the cap. All right, guys. So this
I want your cap, by the way.
You want my cap? You want the G?
Yeah.
You got the P? You want the G?
Although every time you tilt your chin up, I get PTSD from the Igni.
Igni the podcast. Yeah, I mean, I wonder, like, what kind of drastic changes Gwent might see. Is the logo going to change? Maybe this hat is going to be obsolete in 6 months, and I have to beg CDPR for a new one. Maybe
you mean worth a lot of money?
Maybe we're worth a lot of money. Yeah, it's got real McBeard forehead sweat all over it and makeup from the open. Oh man!
Well, anybody can get that. You can just borrow their hat. But I mean, that hat might not be made again.
This hat is already one of a kind. So we were talking on my stream today about the Shoop plushie and how the only way you can get it is on eBay. And who's selling the Shoop plushie? Who would do that? Who would sell this beautiful thing for you got a couple of bucks in your pocket, but you lose an icon.
Yeah. You can't even find one on eBay. I'm checking.
It's pretty crazy, but no, this cap is if it's with me or it's buried with me, I gotta say. So I'm afraid you can't get it. But we have a lot to talk about, guys. This is the Gwent roadmap episode. This is Gwent Homecoming. So let's just get into it. I suppose we're gonna talk about that in just a very, very short break. See you on the other side. Gwent Homecoming. You've probably heard a lot of it over the last week. On Friday, April 13th, Friday the 13th, not unlucky, just the truth, we found out the the trajectory for Gwent coming up, we learned that in the next 6 months, we're going to receive 2 patches. One we got today, April 17th, which was a cosmetic patch that gave us new premiums and new board for the game. In Arena, a little bit's new. It is new in the Arena, even though it looks the same. Plus, all factions have their own board. And we're going to get a balance patch in May, but from then, it's a mystery. But at the end of it, we're going to have a brand new game of Gwent with Thronebreaker released. So there's a lot to be excited about, but there's a lot to be a little down about. Greyboxer, what was your gut reaction to the news, and how are you feeling about it now?
My gut reaction was as soon as I saw on Twitter that they had posted the roadmap, I clicked it and read it as eagerly and as quickly as possible, and read it all the way through to the end. And I retweeted it with like yes and yes of joy, because in my position as someone who's an extreme fan of the Witcher series and someone who's extremely into the lore and the books and everything, you guys all know this, Gwent has changed in such a huge way from what I used to love into what it is now. And it looks like Homecoming is going to turn it back into Gwent for the fans. And that change is necessary. And for me to remain interested in the game, it's critical. So to see that they have taken all this, we've discussed it as like a giant burbling cauldron of feedback from time to time on this podcast, McBeard. For them to have taken that and turned it into what this roadmap says they're going to do is astounding to me. So I was actually incredibly happy about it from the perspective of a Witcher fan.
Yeah, and let's talk about the changes that we can expect from Gwent Homecoming. So when this is all over, in addition to Gwent Thronebreaker, which is going to be its own story in itself, although we don't know any new information about Gwent Thronebreaker, we do know that they're trying, there's some key pillars. There's like as part of their vision. First of all, they're going to be making rows more important. That's one of the things that they wanted to look at. They want to make the game board and cards easier to see and read. So this is about tooltips. This is about artwork. I think that they really want to embrace the fact that they have a fantastic, I feel still undersells the art team. I don't even know if there's enough adjectives I can say that doesn't undersell the art team. So putting art forward without it impacting gameplay, I hope, but putting art forward because, cards being too small, these are all the things that players have addressed in feedback. Changing the coin flip to make going second less advantageous. That's a big one. That is a big one. That's a huge gameplay change for sure. Revising player progression with a new tutorial leveling system and improved rank mode. That's good. Making create and other RNG-based cards less prevalent, less important to the competitive scene. So important. And then also bringing back a darker aesthetic and a more witchery mood to the game. And I'm reading this bullet point from an article that Kotaku actually posted after the roadmap or the Gwent Homecoming letter was released by Marcin Nowinski. It actually got news, actually got coverage, so there were people writing about this. So that's the bullet point straight out of the Kotaku list, which is summarizing the roadmap that we both read. Greyboxer, of those 6 items, let's say, where do you think is the most exciting part of it, and is there any of it that you could take it or leave it, kind of thing?
So I haven't read the Kotaku article, so I mean, I'm looking at it from the perspective of reading the original article, and for me, the biggest part of it's going to be, bringing back The Witcher, which is ahead, and so that's the game has become a little bit cartoony. It's become a little bit, the art doesn't quite mesh up between its card art sometimes and the art of the trailers and that kind of thing. And there's a lot of different things that are kind of amalgamating in the game that don't necessarily mesh well together. So an aesthetic is important, but not critical. So that's important. But I think that remaking it for the fans and doing more than just fixing the aesthetic is important. I don't really have the perspective. I'm not a level 100 player. So I'm not like as interested in the revamping of the player progression kind of thing. Like, okay, people who hit a level 100 want to do more. That's fine. Maybe make it meaningful. That's good, right?
Well, it could be something like the way Diablo does it or the way Overwatch does it, or even Heroes of the Storm or any of the Blizzard games, I guess, where your progression is unlimited. You just get like a different color. It's like you prestige a little bit. That could be something like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, what's important to me is that the game sort of turns back into what it used to be. And a lot of us who've been playing for a long time wish it was that way still, and wish that we could play some early open beta build or the later closed beta builds where there was a lot of complex strategies and cards that were of course overpowered, but then all the decks had overpowered cards and you had to play around them and things that don't exist anymore. And it looks like they might be able to bring that kind of thing back. What they're focusing on first, it looks like, is the rows and trying to make the rows have some sort of identity in addition to the factions having an identity. And when you look at this is the important thing from that entire list, McBeard, is when you look at the entire list of things they want to do, all 6 or 7 or 10 or however many you think they want to, or how many you think there actually are, you can ask and be very honest about this and say, why the heck aren't we getting these once per month, right? We could say, why can't we get this done and then get it an update in June? And then do this next thing that you want to do and do it in July. And do this next thing and then do it in August. And it looks like they want to hold it all back for what they're calling a 6-month development cycle.
Well, they actually did answer this question in Gwent. There's an article on GwentDB that summarizes a little bit more of some of the feedback that's been coming in from Twitter, Reddit, all social media. But the main thing is, this is exact. I'll read this verbatim right from the article, right from Rafal's text. The question was, wouldn't it be better for partial game updates instead of one huge one? And the answer is, if we release partial updates, we cannot deliver all the things we mentioned in Homecoming. Many core things will change on both the mechanical side and the visual side, and they have to fit together. Releasing them in chunks means that we have to spend extensive QA time period, 2+ weeks each, plus deployment, doing a new build, plus console certification. That's a big one. And it eats up a significant amount of manpower and probably also time as well. We decided you want to have everything ready for release. So if they wanted to do an update every month, that's console cert, that's 2 weeks of QA. It's already showing that, the original bold plan that they have was they wanted to release like 10 or 20 cards every season and have month-long seasons. That ties them up. If they patch every season, every month or every 2 months, that's an extra, there's a percentage of times, 20% of the time in those 2 months is always going to be QA and certification. Sometimes, me personally, controversial opinion, I actually wish Gwent wasn't on console during the beta because it's that certification time is just extra time that's really hurting them, I think. So not that I hope it ends up on console ultimately, and it is on console now, but it would have been probably better from the development cycle process for the beta that they didn't actually start off with console. But they had a vision and a plan, and now the plan is nothing for 6 months, nothing big. They're going to probably add events. We have a new arena event, maybe some seasonal events as well, but I think that it's probably going to be pretty quiet after the May balancing patch.
If I may, I think that 6 months is those 6 months that's being bandied about is this the number that people have latched onto? Because they're saying 6 months from today, you're going to have Homecoming, which includes Thronebreaker, which means we're coming out of the beta phase, which means the full game is released. They're saying 6 months for that.
That's what they're saying.
Now, let's just for a moment forget that this is CD Projekt Red, and 6 months might not exactly mean 6 months. It might mean 8. Yeah. But nevertheless, if they mean 6 months, and if it does come out in 6, well, what do we have until then? Well, that was, a week ago or something. So we have, not quite a week ago, but we have the most recent update, which included a fix to Mulligan, which should impact gameplay.
We'll talk about that.
In addition to a completely new, what might be a temporary arena mode from, called Mimic, and might be a sampling of what we're going to be getting over the next 6 months. In addition to a May balance patch, which will create a new meta, or at least, it's going to create a new meta.
It will, yeah.
And so we have, from right now until the May balance patch, we have new content. This is the arena. From May until probably the end of June, we have a new meta, which is still fresh and evolving. By the time we get to the beginning of July, the meta from May is going to start to get a little stale. Probably pretty stale, considering it might not be a huge patch. So what do we have? We have a gap in content from July, let's say 1st, until the release of the PTR to streamers.
Yes.
And that's not 6 months. That is not 6 months. That is July 1st until... what do we think? Maybe a month before the release of the full game, maybe 6 weeks before release of the full game, they will give the PTR to streamers. They will let them test it for a few weeks before they let them go live with it, and then you have new content. That's more like 3 months.
That's good. That's a great way of looking at it. Because I mean, yeah, the May balancing patch could change a whole bunch of stuff. There could be all sorts of stuff to explore. They could even like when Gwent balances. We're doing a lot of air quotes, or also known as dick fingers. What? I don't know where I heard that from, but I'm owning that one because the people who do that all the time, I don't know. Anyway, so we're getting, when Gwent balances, Gwent doesn't just tweak numbers, although the last balancing patch, they did mostly tweak numbers, but they will change cards into different cards. So it's almost like we might even get a bunch of new cards in May that replace the cards that maybe people aren't playing, or that have an effect that isn't very healthy for the game for whatever reason. Maybe you might look at a Cleaver at that, Cleaver for that, or maybe, Barclay only pulls Bronze Dwarves, or War Dancer apparently is getting addressed. Like that card, War Dancer was specifically called out in Marcin's email, which is funny because it's not the only card that people have a problem with, but it's definitely a big problem. So from May, let's say yeah, that's a good point. Takes us about maybe a month or two to maybe get completely sick of that meta, but then by then we know things are happening. There's some more crazy modes in Arena that they've worked in. Maybe they already built the back end around that. It's easy for them to add that. There's some seasonal events, maybe some puzzles, some stuff to earn. The wait it sounds long, but it's going to be about how it feels, I think. So if you stick around and play Gwent, you might, we already have some stuff today, and a month from now we might have some more stuff. So it's going to be good. But it's going to be fine, but what we're getting is going to be really good. We're going to get, a return to the battlefield aspect of Gwent. Actually, I have a question for you, Greyboxer. Yeah. Let's say this game gave you every change you wanted to see. Every change you wanted to see. You got it, and you got it for Homecoming. However, you still lost the third row. How does that make you feel? Even though everything else is answered and better. Everything aesthetically is pleasing. The cards do things you want. The balance, it looks pretty cool. It's bringing you back in. Thronebreaker is amazing. But you don't have 3 rows anymore. Does that feel like Gwent is coming home? Do you think that's something you could live with? Because Marcin in the email said something about making the game better for artwork, better for display, but that actually may involve cutting a row. This is a big, big one. How do you feel about that, Greyboxer?
Yeah, it's pretty huge, right? Because the maybe not hundreds of hours, but 100 hours I've played Gwent and Witcher 3. There's always been 3 rows. Mm-hmm. The 1,000 hours I've played in Gwent, the standalone, it's been 3 rows. So to change the 2 at this stage of the game because you want the art to be larger, that is an incredibly difficult change to stomach because of how much it could possibly affect my view of whether or not I'm still playing Gwent.
It's interesting. It's going to have to be like how they build these cards that need to be changed around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But listen, I don't think they're going to cut the row. I think that they might make it so that you can play in a mode that has 2 rows. Like, I'm trying to think of a way they can step around this, right? Because 3 rows isn't going to work on mobile, and people want to play this on their iPad. So you're never going to get 3 rows working on iPad. It's going to be hideous. It's going to be impossible to play because the cards are way too small. We're seeing even right now when you have a larger computer screen, having the custom boards makes your cards just that little bit smaller, and it makes it even harder to play. So
yeah, the cards are teeny tiny right now.
Maybe 2 rows is what we need for Gwent to survive. And I don't know if it's true or not. But if they make all the rest of the changes, then I'll be happy with the game that I'm playing, and I'll just be mad that it doesn't quite feel like Gwent anymore. But what I'm playing now doesn't feel like Gwent anymore. So they are going to take a huge risk here, and they've acknowledged that they're going to try to remake Gwent. And that's why I think they said that they're going to do a whole bundle of changes all at once and not just a piecemeal change. Mm-hmm. Because the types of evolution they want the game to go through are generational. Like, they want it to be... They want to turn it on its head. They want to flip the coin on Gwent. Mm-hmm. And I think we're sitting on blue right now.
That's a great way of putting it. Just want to direct your attention to the chat a little bit here. We got M. Scion saying 2 rows with purpose is greater than 3 rows with no purpose. Dr. Gurr saying that changes the game a lot, though. It won't feel the same. Rogue Digit saying 2 purposeful rows plus no row limit plus larger card art. I could live with that. That's Risky saying the agility change kind of made rows much less relevant. And Chappy asking, why do all Gwent content creators have beards? I just read that one anyway, even though it wasn't about the rose. Anyway.
Oh, we all live in vans down by the river.
Down by the river, and in our parents' basement at the same time somehow. Yeah. So yeah, Gwent changing possibly Rose. Very interesting. But I mean, from there we have the community reaction that we can be talking about. So, some big community people, people like Merchant, Mogwai, Panda, and myself, the casters for Gwent. Our opinions are, looked at with scrutiny, I guess. Merchant's been referenced on Reddit. Swim as well, also been referenced on Reddit. King Blacktooth released a very emotional video in which he kind of goes over how Gwent's making him feel right now. But it seemed like on the day, on D-Day, on Roadmap Day, that there was a feeling of dread out there. There was a lot of stuff. But I think Merchant made one of the best points. He said in his video on Gwent Homecoming that to tell your company, to tell the head of your company, your CEO, although Marcin is the CEO, so he's telling them, but to make the presentation, to get him on board, to get Marcin on board, they would have had to make a presentation that blew their minds. So Merchant's take on it was to say, we're not going to do anything for 6 months, and then we're going to come back and release the game. To say that there's not going to be any content for 6 months. There's not going to be any new cards for 6 months. And to have the CEO say, yeah, sure, that sounds good. That sounds like great business. Let's go. That presentation must have been the craziest presentation. They must have such a strong vision for the game, and they must have been able to really articulate how they are going to make Gwent fantastic, great again, from the viewpoint of people coming back into the game will be hooked. People who haven't heard of the game yet will come in and say, wow, this game is fantastic. I wish I was a fly on the wall for that presentation, because the company is saying, yeah, we're doubling down on Gwent is basically what they're saying. And that's exciting, actually. That puts faith in my heart, I think.
Well, think about the practical aspects of this, because I thought Merchant's video was the best of likely all of them on the subject. And especially coming from someone who works with CD Projekt Red as a caster. So
and has worked, sorry to interrupt you, but also has also worked on video games and has worked on a failed card game as well.
Yes.
RuneScape Chronicle.
And so having that experience and knowledge, right? And to know that when he approached his company CEO and said, listen, our game is failing, we need to fix it. And for the CEO to shut the doors on the project, right? He's saying the opposite has happened with CD Projekt Red, is they're going to keep everyone working on Gwent while they basically shut the doors for 6 months. And we talked a little bit earlier about how it's not really 6 months and they're going to be releasing content, but they're going to have the development team almost fully focused on the new content for Homecoming. And so to say you're going to pay full salaries for all of these developers and all these managers and all these artists on a game that we're not sure is going to actually be alive in October, right? That is faith in your team.
Yep.
And that is faith on a vision that was presented to you by the leaders of this game, who both happen to love Skellige.
Yes, that's what we learned, right? That's what we learned in the CD Projekt Red tour, the tour of the studio. Yeah, so there's that part of it. And now, I mean, things like Merchant was already streaming Magic the Gathering, and Mogwai's big into Magic the Gathering right now, and a lot of people are Magic the Gathering Arena, that is. And, a lot of players were already kind of bouncing around on what they were playing. So I think that when you look at it through the lens of Gwent Homecoming, it looks like people are abandoning the game, but the truth is that people were kind of already stepping away anyway, hoping for change. Like maybe when Gwent changes and improves on some of these issues we have a problem with, maybe then I'll come back. I mean, even I don't stream Gwent 100% of the time. So it's exciting to know that something is coming. And honestly, freeing up that bottleneck of patch cycle for 6 months, like that's going to basically, like, it's 6 months to us, but it's almost like they get a bonus, like 3 months, or like 2, or maybe let's lowball, because I don't know what it's like. Let's say 1.5 man months back, that everybody who would be working on patch certification, or anybody who'd be working on, whatever would be going on for the patch cycle that would be tying up the team, those resources can be actually put back into the game. So it's going to be it's going to be condensed. Like that type of long-running development time, I hope. I mean, I don't think they would throw 6 months out if they didn't think they couldn't hit it. And at the end of 6 months, we're going to get something. But ideally, we get everything.
Yeah. And to go into some of the other reactions, right, is a lot of the content creators are sort of upset about this. Hey, I've built my brand, I have built my channel, I have built all of my content around Gwent, and you're saying you're going away for 6 months. Again, I redirect you to the beginning of our conversation about this, where it's more like 3 months, and you'll probably be one of those streamers, especially if you've tried to build a brand or have quit your job for this. You're likely going to be one of those people who gets access to the PTR and might get a good chance at exclusive content from that work you've done. So I just wanted to say to everyone who's built their channels up, and to King Blacktooth in particular, because I watched his video and I was just like, God damn you, CD Projekt Red, for making him cry. I don't care how good this game is, it wasn't worth that. But what I want to tell them is that if you chins up, because if you've worked this hard to build your channel and you've built something with what you do online with streaming, and people love your stream, they're going to love your stream whether or not you play Gwent all the time, whether or not the game gets boring or not, or if you play a different game for a while. Especially King Blacktooth had talked about, if I stop streaming Gwent, I'll get less viewers, and if I get less viewers, I won't be as successful, and so on and so forth. Well, you came from Street Fighter, and no one knew you there. Or everybody knew you from that, and no one knew you here with Gwent. And you started making high-quality videos about Gwent, and then everybody knew you, and you've done fine. And if you want to leave Gwent to do something else, then the people who love watching your stream, who have stuck with you for so long, are going to continue to do so. And even if the viewer numbers aren't as high, the viewership isn't always exactly determinative of success. Even though we sort of have that idea, as a lot of us are newer streamers, and a lot of the content creators who started with Gwent are newer streamers. And they instantly equate viewership with success. That's not always the key to your channel. And the key to your channel, I think, is being happy with what you're doing, making good content, and enjoying the people you stream for. So if you can continue to do that while Gwent has no content, or while you play something else, then do so. Like, I feel terrible for everyone who's getting deflated by this news, because it's terrible for them. But at the same time, it seems almost like they don't want to have the confidence in themselves to push through, and I want to tell them that you do, and you should.
Inspiring words from Greyboxer. I think for me, like, it's when I look at stuff like KBT, like you're saying stuff like, oh, if you don't want to stream Gwent, you want to stream something else, you can do it and you'll be great at it. The sad thing is, like for me, for instance, like I don't want to stop streaming Gwent, but the thing is, if Gwent's going to decline in popularity, it's like hard. It's like I don't want to stop, but is like, am I really going to be like, people are probably just it's going to be less and less. Like you said, it's pretty more like 3 months decline, but the PTR I think is going to pick us up. And I think that hopefully content creators kind of get in on maybe like the inside track on some very special news, maybe some updates that can make them excited about it, and they can maybe relay their excitement back out to their audiences. I mean, like I think about the podcast, I think about, some weeks have been tougher than others. I always love getting together with people and talking about Gwent, that's for sure. And I love that you guys listen to it. But there have been some weeks where I thought, oh man, it would be easy if we could just kind of push this to next week. Because it kind of even happened 2 weeks ago where we thought, the roadmap was coming. It's like, all right, we'll do the podcast right after the roadmap. It's going to be the biggest piece of news that Gwent's had gotten for a long time. And then they didn't release it. And then we didn't release the podcast. And it's on me. That's on me completely. I didn't have a backup plan. The backup plan ended up being the Pumpkin podcast, which was the following week when we found out that it wasn't going to be until Friday of that week that we were going to hear about it. So we did it. But, 6 months from actual time for the podcast, that's 4 to 5 episodes a month. That's, do the math, 30-ish episodes. It'll get us to episode 100, which is exciting. And we're going to episode 100. And I would like to keep doing the weekly podcast. So hopefully, maybe some people have some ideas of what we could do on a regular basis if they think that the news or stuff to talk about might be a little bit dwindling. But there's going to be patch news. Obviously, that's going to be a big episode. We're going to have more players on that specialize in specific stuff. Like I want to talk to Ocean Mud about Eridan. Would love to have like Celebrate on, talk about Henselt, Northern Realms. I'd love to have Always Turtle on. Lots of people that I've already kind of talked to or talked about. So there's at least 3 or 4 podcasts in the bank. It's loaded up in the cannon, we're ready to fire. But 6 months, as a content creator, that's where I feel the strain. YouTube streaming, I'll be okay, but the podcast, I feel like it's tough sometimes to think about how we're going to be doing 6 months of podcasts.
It will be hard. I think that being the weekly Gwent podcast is difficult because we can't really not talk about Gwent. And 3 or 4 weeks into July, we're going to be a little blasted with Gwent, and I think that having consistent guests on the show will make it interesting. And there's a lot of really great, I can't even talk, a lot of really great Gwent personalities that we haven't even had on the show yet. So I think that your content will continue to flourish and grow, and your stream is doing pretty well. So I think that you'll be fine. I think a lot of these Gwent streamers are going to be fine in finding out whether or not they really want to push through with Gwent, or if they're ready to take another step towards another game. And that's up for them to choose. But I think that in your video you made a good point that everybody's coming back. Nobody's going to leave Gwent now and then not come back for Homecoming. And you can be an edgelord and say that, I'm done with CD Projekt right after this crap. Gall darn it. And that's fine, but I'll see you in October.
It's actually funny how Homecoming is actually going to be for a lot of people that are maybe giving up the game right now. Will be like, I'm coming home to Gwent. Like, it's going to be, I am coming home to see how things look. And I mean, my channel is doing good, but it's honestly like the reason my channel does okay is because of the awesome people that want to hang out with me while I still play Gwent and still talk about the game. So I'm nothing without the people that want to actually watch the game and watch me. So that's really awesome. Moving on, so I did reference a Gwent DB article with further information about that. I'll link that in the show notes, of course. It's called Gwent Homecoming Answers from the Devs. They answer about 10, 12 questions that are coming from Reddit and Twitter. The main one saying 6 months starting now, as opposed, considering we got the news on April 13th, we can actually mark it on our calendars. October 13th is going to be the day. It is the day, so put a big fat red star on October 13th, 2018. But there's a lot of
Friday.
It's not a Friday. That's okay. There you go. But insight on the changes. They want to show as much as possible, but they want to show it in a state that's close to final, so it's going to take some time. They want to inform, and they want to inform, but they want to also show. So they want to do both of those things. They're not going to remove Shoop. They're actually going to give him more space to smash. There's going to be PTRs planned. They are going to be showing progress to people. The question that I answered before about why are we getting one big update instead of small ones. The card milling, of course, they talked about in there, and some Twitter questions as well. I'll link it in the show notes. You can go through it at your own time. Nothing really groundbreaking in there, but just further clarification.
What? They clarified in those questions that they're going to be revamping almost every single card.
Oh yeah, that's a small piece of news. Who cares about that? No, you're right. That's huge. That's pretty huge. Yes.
There's going to be no card that is unchanged almost. I mean, because they're, especially if they do the revamping of the rows and the row identity, cards are going to have row effects or row benefits, row bonuses, row boons, or whatever the heck they call it.
I hope.
And so they're all going to have one that's tied to their card identity, faction identity, and so on. And I think that that's important to note, that they're taking the entire card collection and revamping it. And so that is why they're not doing it piecemeal. It's because they got to pick up all the cards and then figure them all out again. And that is an arduous task that I'm glad I'm not the game director for.
It's a huge task. And somebody, I've read some comments out there, and somebody made a comment. I don't remember the name of the person, but it was about, why do they need 6 months after they haven't done anything for 4 months already? Which is not true. They've done a lot of stuff, but they have done, arguably, when you look at like 4 months in 2017, where we were getting like new cards all the time, in the last 4 months we received one balance patch. And there has and 10 new cards and stuff like that. But I think that since the midwinter update, let's say they they spent a month taking that feedback from Midwinter, and they weren't happy with that feedback, as the fans weren't happy at the same time. You know, cards are too small, game's broken, RNG sucks, these new cards aren't good, faction identity's bad, what's going on CD Projekt Red, why is Gwent like this, and making faces like Greyboxer's face right there. But I think that since that time, since the end of January to right now, they have been concepting and talking about how that they are going to change the game. And now they know they need 6 months of development time. What does that mean? That the vision is more or less complete. I think that they already have an idea of what they're going to be doing, how the cards are going to be changing. I don't think they're starting that now. I think they have started that work a long time ago. It's the implementation of that stuff is going to take a lot of time. So that's why I think that they can give a time frame of 6 months. Like in development time, I mean, Thronebreaker has been in development for over a year now. Development takes a long time, but concepting it is part of that process. So I think that for the most part, they have a really good idea of how the game's going to look, how the game's going to feel, the aesthetic changes. It's just going to be on the artists and the developers. And then with the PTR balancing in QA, if they change every card in the game, I bet you one or two of those is going to be broken. But hopefully we can squash those, right?
Yeah. And so from a content creating perspective, McBeard, you made a video on this, but it's your thoughts in 20 minutes. What are your thoughts in 30 seconds?
Yeah, my thoughts in 30 seconds. Well, it's basically that it's a risky endeavor to do what they're doing. Artifacts coming out. You know, Hearthstone just had an expansion release. Magic the Gathering Arena is going to have regular updates probably over the next 6 months. For your game to go into hibernation for 6 months is such a risky play, but you wouldn't do it unless you had faith in your company and your fans also had faith in you and you had faith in the vision of the game. So I think that when Gwent Homecoming hits us in October, it's going to be great. I really do think it's going to be great. I am optimistic about it. I am generally optimistic, so that probably doesn't surprise people, but I am optimistic about that generally. And I think that I am fine with the wait. I'm still going to keep playing Gwent. Some people aren't, but I'm going to keep playing Gwent. I'm excited for the balancing patch. I am still, I'm going to keep playing Gwent because I'm still going to be casting the games. I think Gwent Esports doesn't change whatsoever. You know, there's going to be a balancing patch in May, which means that an open, depending on if it happens before or after the open, that's going to be the open. And then June is kind of an off month. That's when Wild Hunt Philadelphia is going to take place. I'll see you there, Greyboxer. And then we're going to have July, which is going to be played on the new patch, probably. And then we're going to have the challenger for that period in August. And now we're just a couple months away at that point from Homecoming. So there might be one tournament that's like maybe more bland than others, but it's really not going to be that bad. And I think that people are going to come back. They're going to play Thronebreaker for 10 to 20 hours. They're going to realize how great Gwent is, and they're going to stick around. That's the ideal situation. And I think that, you know, even if I'm half right, it's still going to be great.
Yeah, I think October Open might be kind of boring.
Well, no, that's going to be the most exciting one because it's probably going to happen at the end of the month. Opens tend to happen at the end of the month, and the patch is going to come halfway through the month. It's going to be the September. Actually, there actually isn't an Open in October. September is the open and November is the open, but October is actually the off month like June is. So, yeah. So November's open is going to be the craziest one. Yeah. And September's open might be maybe the blandest, but we still don't even know what we're going to be seeing at that point. They maybe have like crazy stuff to show us.
I mean, and so we have this how do we feel, you know, section. And as a content creator, I mean, I haven't made content. It's fairly obvious that I retired, and I haven't streamed for a long time either, and it was sort of a forced retirement with the amount of time I have to put in at work anymore. But you know, I still get my gaming on, and but if I was actually making daily Gwent content like you guys are, you know, I don't have the creativity to have kept pushing out new decks, new ideas, been interactive with chat like you guys have really put in the work, and you're doing well. I'd have quit months ago. I don't think the game's been as fun to stream daily for a long time, and that's another thing that Merchant brought up in his video. But this news really did not affect me in that way, and so anyone who's like, oh, why is he so excited about Homecoming? It's killing content creators. Isn't he a content creator? Well, only from the perspective of being a part of this podcast for a long time, and otherwise I don't have to put out any daily Gwent content, and so I can sort of sit on my hands until Homecoming.
Yeah, you can wait. You can do other things. You have work. go through your day. It's different for different people, obviously. And by the way, I know, but you do play Gwent from time to time, and I love that you make time to come on the podcast because when this is your home in Gwent, right? In the chair with the mic, so kind of a bit of a homecoming here right now for you, and we'll definitely want to have you on again when changes hit, balances hit, of course. But
or I quit my job,
or you quit your job and then you just kind of dive right back into Twitch. No,
please,
maybe not. Oh, maybe so. I don't know. What, you don't like working in an office every day? Try streaming. It's fun. You just it's all the fun you want with none of the security.
Oh, well said.
You just have moments of sharp fear about your future that kind of fade over time. It's like, I think it's just maybe I was just hungry. That's what I was feeling. Monka S. Let's talk about the changes we got today, because we got some changes today for sure. We got a patch today. It was mostly a aesthetics patch to kind of prepare Gwent, a little new look for Gwent. There's some stuff obviously they've been working on. We got new boards. It's awesome. So we got some good and some bad. So the good side, customization that your opponent can see. That's pretty cool. The boards look great also.
Yeah.
Very thematic. I love how they just, they're very in tune with what the faction themes are, which is why I'm excited about the actual developmental changes for factions. But, there's a bad side to it, Greyboxer.
Cards are small. What are these cards for ants?
They're very they're very tiny. They seem even smaller now. It also feels like there's elements missing from the game board, but I'm not even sure what it is. But it looks good. Like it's a nice change overall. Like it's a nice huge change. The middle row's got your faction color on it. Weather effects look a little different as well. Premium cards come back. What is the best looking premium? I think I have mine. What's your favorite new premium of the new ones that we got?
My favorite is the Cursed Knight. And it's because he's this striking blue color like this, but it's a cool blue, like a ghostly blue, like a ghastly blue even. And the knight's premium is like hitting himself in frustration, like damn me for being damned. So it's just funny to watch him repeatedly hit himself.
Yeah.
I had to do a double take. I thought he was flogging the horse, and I thought, he's a real jerk. And then I thought, I feel kind of bad for him now.
Being cursed kind of makes you crazy a little bit, just a bit. I like the damned, the tormented mage. That one's got crazy. It's almost distracting. It's so flashy, lightning everywhere. It's like glass falling. The dude's he rears up and goes, it's awesome. It's got the thunder and everything. It's really nice looking. I like Joanna's as well, because Joanna's lore is that she's the apprentice of the dwarven blacksmith at Crow's Perch there with the Bloody Baron, but she's doing all the work, so she's hammering away at the breastplate, but then she kind of looks back at the dude kind of laying around, being a layaba, and he just shakes her head. She
throws him a long glance, 20-foot gaze.
It's so good. That's a good one. They're all very, they're all good. Even the little ones, even Ointment, which is just a mortar and pestle and herbs. It glows with magic. It's nice to have the premium collection complete now. It feels like we're saying goodbye to this era of Gwent with completion. It's kind of like where we're at.
Yeah. A lot of people really clamored for those game boards. So to have the customizable boards and to have them appear for not only you but for your opponent, I think that's really cool.
So the other thing we got is a warped arena mode. This one is maybe the biggest change. Now this is so good. It's called Mimic. So when you queue into arena, you have a chance to build a deck for your opponent to play. So every game you play, you're playing against the same deck that you gave your opponent, and then you're playing with your opponent's deck. So every game you're playing a different deck, but your opponent is kind of the same. It's actually a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. And I thought it was going to be, a nice lark. I thought, okay, well, we'll spend some time before the podcast playing this. But I had so much fun. The highlights from these games are so good. And it's like my opponent's the same each time, but it's about the combos that I can make with the crap. You're trying to give your opponent a terrible, terrible deck. And on I do a Friday Fight Night every Friday on my stream that I'm home, where we take our decks, we take some meme decks, and I play against my viewers in the chat. And just this last Friday, him, DG Thunder, had a great idea. How about we build terrible decks for each other and play against us? And lo and behold, do we not get an arena mode that is based on that exact concept, but it's actually even better because in Constructed, you give your opponent just nothing but trash. But in Arena, sometimes you have to pick a decent card. So it's like it's much more engaging because when it came down to playing with DG, the deck building process was much more fun. The actual game was just like, all right, well, I have 5 dead cards in my hand and I have a couple 1s and 2s and 3s that don't do anything. But the arena mode is a little bit more electrifying, I think. It's just nuts. I don't know if you had a chance to play it. I played it. I had a great time. We went 5 wins. We sailed through the first 4 games and then we hit a wall. I put Milva in the deck. Milva's actually not even bad. And I think I put like a Kudweni Revenant in where there's like a couple of situations where they could get it to copy. So you have to really mitigate the amount of value your opponent can get. I also had to give them Hillock, which is not the worst leader by far. So
it's like they sat down and they're like, okay, we need a new arena mode. And, Luigi was like, in a world where you can build your own opponent's deck and know what it is beforehand, but the only trade-off is that they can do the same for you.
It's so good. It's such a good idea. I'll be playing that.
Because I was saying, because you not only do you get to know what's in your opponent's deck, you also get to build it for them. It's just great. Like it's such a funny concept, and I hope it has legs, right? Like I hope it stays fun because it's probably going to stick around for a little while. Until they come out with a new one. But this, being the first sort of warped arena mode is pretty cool. And like I said, it's like it's probably one of the more fun ideas that I thought they could come up with. So yeah, it's real good.
Well, I do hope it has legs, and I hope it stays fun. But I also hope that like this is going to be something that's not going to be in the game forever. Like it's going to rotate out. So it's kind of like, if you play Hearthstone, there's a Tavern Brawl mode where they have like a weird rule set thing where you can play against other players, and it's like a fun thing they do every week. For this arena thing, this is a great mode, a great idea for arena. But you could do other arenas, like there could be the dual faction thing. You know how we were originally testing the PTR where there was a dual faction. You're stuck with like either like monsters and Nilfgaard, and those are all your cards. That's easily something they can implement for one of these weekends, and they already have that in the game. That tech's in there, I think, if you kind of go off the PTR, that's in there. So if they can keep arena fresh with these really awesome things, like that's great for streaming, and that's great for content, and that's great for like weekly or even bi-monthly, what, twice a month, semi-monthly. I think that if that's what they want to give us, that's going to make it a lot easier to get through, any of sort of like the more, I don't like the word stale, it's overused, but the stale time when there's a stale time. And it was a lot of fun. And I'm going to play a little bit of it tomorrow as well, for sure. So I love this arena mode, and I love the warped rule set kind of thing that they already had in the game to begin with. And this is the first one we get, and it's awesome. It's dynamite. I love it.
It's better than regular arena. That's sort of
no
question.
I actually agree. Arena's fun. And I hope all the people that love arena, more power to you. But I prefer constructed play. But this arena was super fun. I was fully entertained from start to finish. And when you lose, you don't even feel bad. It's like, well, my deck sucked. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah, and just to sort of add to something that I read today on Twitter, Jagaris had posted that she hopes that maybe Gwent Up doesn't work with this mode.
I don't think it does. I didn't even activate it for mine, but I was told in my Twitch chat that it actually doesn't work. You can't. And I
hope it never does. Like I hope you shouldn't be able to know what's in your deck in this mode, because it's such like having that information is so much more powerful than in ranked. And we were arguing whether or not, when deck trackers were first going around, whether or not it was even fair to have deck trackers in the first place, and especially the ones that counted your opponent's cards too. And I hope that we come down on the side of leaving trackers alone for this mode, because it really would sort of ruin the entire fun of it. Because today, remember, you did the runestone. You were so pumped about your runestone into Crone, and you're like, of course he threw a silver Crone in there, because everybody throws a Crone in for this mode because you only get one. and you wanted so badly to pull the crone from your deck, and then you find out after playing the runestone that you didn't have it. Like, that's a moment that you could never get if you ran a tracker.
There's actually even a better moment that defends your point a little bit. So there is a moment where my opponent put Trial of the Grasses in my deck, and I actually had Brewer as a leader, which is kind of crazy because he's one of the best ones. But the case could be made that if all your silvers are trash, then Brewer is also bad. So I had Trial of the Grasses in my hand, and I had Brewer that I haven't played, so I decided to play Brewer, and do I not see Eskel? And it was round 1, and I thought, man, if I knew Eskel was in there, I would have saved Brewer into Eskel into Trial of the Grasses for round 3. And I couldn't do that because I didn't know. But yeah, like, that would have been such a great combo. It's, you know, that guy probably lost to Trial of the Grasses a lot, because you don't need big plays to, like, you can run away with the game with a couple of like 11, 12 point plays, because a lot of times you're playing like dead Dimoon Pirate Captains and dead Reaver Scouts and dead John Natalis, and nothing pulls anything and nothing works, and Nilfgaardian Gate's a 0 point card and Shoop's a 0 point card. Like, it's actually hilarious. Like, I don't have a lot of time in my life to watch Twitch, because I'm on Twitch and I'm doing other stuff, but I will actually tune into Twitch to watch people play this mode. It's hilarious and it's awesome. And I hope, you know, the Thrilling in the chat said she got 2 Villain Trettenmirths. Like, you just don't know what craziness you're gonna get. I had a double Milva deck. Like, David Rodriguez Jr. gave his opponent 2 Novas, Shoop, and Renew. That was like 4 of the gold picks. He got like the worst ones for his opponent. So awesome. So, and it's limited time. Yes, it is going to be a week. So hopefully they don't push that. Also, shout out to Ash Cosplay for the host as well and for hanging out. Hope you're doing well, Ash. She's got a lot of cool stuff going on as well. If you remember Ash from the old Round of Gwent podcast show, not really a podcast, it was a show. So one more thing, the Mulligan fix, and it's in quotations, and let's do it. Let's do the quotation fingers.
What do you call? Don't even tell me.
No, I'm not going to know. The Mulligan fix. So I haven't played Constructed. I didn't play Constructed very much today. We went through the collection and we played some Mimic Arena. But let me tell you, Mulligan did not feel fixed in Arena. A lot of the stuff I was mulliganing away was coming back. And I don't know if it's better if you have 3 ofs. I don't know if Arena Mimic is like this weird mode that just didn't have that coded into it. And if Arena's different. And I can't really speak for Constructed, but I can say that in Arena, I did not feel like it was fixed. It felt like I was always drawing that Reaver Scout back that I didn't want, or that Nilfgaardian Gate back that I didn't want. So don't know about your experience. It's the same case for ranked. Well, then there might be another tweak coming. But they definitely, also just for explanation of this, the general situation with Mulligan right now is that when you mulligan a card, it feels like, and it is like, you are likely to draw that card back. Not every time, but you have a higher probability of drawing the card that you mulligan later, which means that when you mulligan your Foglet and your opponent open passes on you, and then you go to draw your next card in round 2 and you draw your Foglet, you're like, I got, you know, the term is, I got featured. I got that mulligan feature. So we're hoping that maybe there's they could turn the dials a little bit more there and get that fixed.
Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't even be having this discussion, in my opinion. They should have just told us what they did, what it used to do, the way it used to work, and how it works now, and how they changed it in this patch. And instead, we get Mulligan is fixed, yay! And that we don't know how. We don't know in whether or not it's in just Arena mode. It's not fixed yet. If it's been fixed in both, if they forgot to deploy it and it's actually fixed in neither, we don't have a clue right now because they don't tell us anything. And this is going back to all the way to that first Mulligan article, the blacklisting article on Gwendolen. And that's something that the community had to discover. This is actually how Mulligan works. You actually blacklist cards when you put them back into your deck at original Mulligan in Gwent. And for the community to still, 18 months later, not have anything better, that's inexcusable. Tell us how Mulligan works now.
It's interesting because there still is going to be an amount of bias, because it's still likely when you run 3 cards of a certain kind in your deck, even if you blacklist one, you could draw another one. And even with this fix, you could just draw the card you don't want to see, and that just could be a coincidence. And then you think that it's not working, and then it's a real confirmation bias thing. It's a real Anixia deep breaths more moment to my old WoW players. It's a real thing where it's like, is it actually happening? Is it actually better or worse, or is it the same? You need to play a little bit more. I need to play more. They changed the algorithm apparently, and it's probably too complicated to even bother explaining, and they may even change it again. So
don't say that.
I won't say that. Fine, I'll take it.
Because someone is smart enough to explain it down to people.
Okay. Yeah, that's
but
true.
No one's
that's
explaining it to anyone is the problem. That's what I'm saying. And so, maybe we won't understand it. Someone will and can tell us about it, even if you and I read it and we go, what?
Someone knows how to explain it.
Exactly.
Somebody out there. It's not just a random assortment of numbers in a box that says Mulligan.
The meme.
It's definitely.
What was it used to be? Computing Isengrim outlaw value? Is that what it was?
Oh, yeah. all like the all like the mathematical symbols floating in front of their faces. Yes, exactly. High IQ. I would try to understand. If it's really complicated, I try to understand.
Yeah, exactly. He's a better player.
So a couple of things, just a few more things to talk about before we go to the chat and we wrap this bad boy up. Console improvements. Now, I said at the top of the show, console maybe Gwent development's downfall a little bit, but it's a little bit easier. Xbox One, I think, had the biggest problem, so it's better there. Also, we think that this weekend will be the premium weekend because next weekend's Challenger, and we know we're getting in April, so I think we're getting it this weekend. So save your kegs, save your ore. You're probably doing that anyway. Now you know new cards aren't coming. You might as well just splurge on those primos. Get those movie cards. Not much really to add, right? It's just, you just want to get those movie cards. I want to know what everybody in the chat thinks about this patch that came in, the Gwent Homecoming. I mean, there's so much to say. We already have some people that are talking in the chat, so please tag me at McBearded in the chat. We're going to go and talk to you in the community section. No strategy section, because this was a very news-heavy podcast, and I'm sure you can agree that that's what we need to talk about right here. But let's go into the community section here. Want to know what you guys think. Want to know what you guys have to say, and we'll talk to you in just a moment. All right, my friends. Once again, we are supported by our commandos. Our patrons at patreon.com/commandershorn. Thanks once again for supporting our content, keeping the podcast ad-free. The first comment I think that came in from let's say KickDS says the way it's fixed after every card gets placed in a random spot first before a new card gets chosen, before the position of the card you mulliganed in your deck would be chosen, excluding the other. Oh man, this is complicated.
Breathe deeper.
This is complicated. Including the other cards of the same type, so you had more of a chance to draw into it. Now the cards of the same type are also part of the shuffle, so you have less chance to draw into it. KickDS, I think I can safely say that without really studying what you said, I can't comment on it, but thanks for trying to explain it, and for everybody in the chat that got that explanation. I hope that is, I'm sure that's somewhat how it works for sure. But generally though, I think that the mulligan thing, I think a lot of people just want it to shuffle, right? Just want it to shuffle the deck. There's like the way Bran does it. You discard the cards with Bran, it shuffles the deck, and you can be better off with what you're drawing. At least the deck was shuffled. And then if you draw the card that you mulliganed that you didn't want to see, at least the deck was shuffled, and you could say, well, it was bad luck, maybe.
Yeah, the only card that should be blacklisted, in my opinion, after initial mulligan is the card you just mulliganed on. So if you mulligan 3 cards after the initial mulligan, you shouldn't draw those cards when you play any of your Avalokes or anything like that. It's going to draw you cards. Second turn, you draw a card. That card is random because everything got shuffled except for those 3 that are now at the bottom. Then when you mulligan that second card, that should give you the chance to draw one of those first 3 that you mulliganed, right? And then it resets again when you draw for the final round. That's the only way that makes clear sense. That way you can look and say, I have 8 cards in my deck. One of those cards is Ciri Nova. Right. I have a 1 in 8 chance of winning this game or not.
Exactly.
Let's do it.
Exactly.
Oh no, I hit something bad. Okay, well, I rolled the dice and I lost, and I understand that. What I don't understand is like the confirmation bias stuff, that it really does feel like you're constantly round 3 drawing the crappy mulligan when you drew it in round 2.
Right. It's true. Shadow Chick in the chat, a commando, says CDPR has always pulled through when they've gone back to the drawing board with their games. I'm confident they'll make Gwent 2.0 what we hoped for in the first place. It's true. They have. I mean, they went back to the drawing. You could say Midwinter Update is like the way you would argue against that truth, but I mean, it's really they really give a shit about this one. Pardon my language. They clearly like care. They're putting everything on the line. Like this is maybe like Gwent's last chance, I think, as far as in the eye of the consumer. I think that they definitely have a plan, and they have done a lot of these changes. Like they have revamped the game a number of times over. They changed weather, they changed gold immunity, they changed faction passives, they added factions. They've completely revamped how cards work. They are just going to go through another fundamental change in how the game is played and works, but this one is one that they're giving themselves time for. If you were upset about the rushed midwinter patch, then you have to be a little bit on board with how they're going to be approaching this one. There's no rushing here, and there's definitely nothing getting in the way. No console certification, no patch cycle. So it's just going to be better for sure.
No Russians here.
Yeah, no Russians. Greyboxer with the shifty eyes. There is a little bit of extra news here. I'm not going to say too much about this because I don't know all the details, but apparently there's this Russian wind trading ring. Like that can't be. It can't be as straightforward as that, can it? I mean, there's something on Reddit where there's some players that are getting auto concedes on their stream, or they're getting players that are just throwing games on Pro Ladder. Guys, why are you streaming the game? If you're trying to win trade, why are you streaming it? That's all I gotta say. It can't be like that. It can't be totally like that. Mago thinks that it's not like that either.
Can you imagine McBeard going on stream?
He's like, all right, guys, time to win trade.
Asking for a win.
Yeah, and
on
getting
stream, on Pro Ladder, and expecting to get one. And then that confirmation bias happens and somebody does concede, and some Reddit Scooby-Doo decides to clip your post or clip your stream and then have their friend translate it, not translate the whole thing, and then post it on Reddit and be like, "Ha ha! We've caught you, you drafted criminal." I
mean, the Reddit, the clip in question is the Gwent player join time where the game was lost. He had lost the game. He discarded a Siri Nova that even if he was playing around Scorch, even if it was Scorch, he still would have lost the game. And his opponent just concedes. It's a really weird clip. I gotta say, it is a weird clip.
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, I don't know. I'm not gonna say it's. I'm not, it is witch hunty, and I'm not part of that kind of thing. But
yeah,
there is Reddit does that sometimes. Shadow Chick saying it is conspiracy-esque. I don't know the details. I'm not going to say it's happening, but these players are. Joy Time's a good player. Like these players, you don't need. I don't feel like if you're a good player, you don't need to win trade, right? You don't need to snipe streams. I know there's the thing about competitive advantage, and I know getting into Gwent Open is really hard, and I know there's a lot of money there when you get there, so I get it, but don't stream your win trading if that's what's actually happening. It just seems like you're asking to get kicked out of the Pro Ladder, for sure.
Amon Amarth, by the way, repping the shirt.
Yeah, Amon Amarth in the chat too.
He wants to know what happens if the Reddit Scooby-Doos pull off the mask and it's me. Surprise.
Oh, you would have gotten away with it if it weren't for you meddling kids. That's awesome. It's just random Russians throwing the game for their favorite streamers is what Kick DS thinks. Yeah. That's
probably true. That's probably the truth.
Yeah.
But I mean, anybody who's gone up against somebody like a Swim or something like that, might just concede just because it would be funny, right? Because the streamer's going to react.
Well, players don't do that with me. They're funnier when I lose, I think.
And a lot of people on the Pro Ladder don't play it seriously. Right.
Well, I mean, you kind of like, I think if you're really good at Pro Ladder, you just kind of, even Pumpkin said that he just played Imlerith Sabbath, and if it stuck, he won, and if he didn't stick, he forfeited, and that's how he got his games in. Like, you just kind of, like 90% of the players are not in it to win it, and the players that are in it to win it are just crushing the people that are just memeing anyway. So it is a weird space in the first place. So yeah, it's basically fans dying for Death Clock. Oh, that reference. That reference right there from Rogue Digit.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Kick DS is also saying there was a Polish guy who surrendered 3 times in a row against Ash Lazal in the ranked top 100. I mean, you can't control it if your opponents want to forfeit. Like, you can't control it. It's a little odd. But I mean, Ash Lazal does not need people forfeiting for her to be in the top 100. She's a great player. So I mean, like, that's what I'm saying. You don't need it. You don't need it to get top 8 pro ladder. You do need the luck of the gods sometimes, or you need to be Tail God himself, perhaps. So, you know, there needs to be some godliness on your side, perhaps. But you know, that's just it, guys.
The gods of thunder. The
gods of thunder. Guys, this is a great podcast. Thanks, Greyboxer, for showing up and having a great chat. Always a great time to podcast with you, my friend. You are the original co-host, so it's always just easy. We always have lots of laughs. Greyboxer, you're out there. You're tweeting. Where can people find you out there on the internet?
You can find me at the Greyboxer. I used to be at Greyboxer Gwent, and then I decided that I talk too much about Dark Souls now. So you can find me at the Greyboxer on Twitter, and I'm on the most Discords related to Gwent.
Definitely on mine. Definitely on ours. The Commander Sworn Discord, which all commandos and all subs of my channel have instant access to, where we are, you know, we're talking about Gwent, but we're also talking about all the games we're playing. We're playing Monster Hunter. We're playing Magic the Gathering Arena. We're playing Dead Cells. And these are games that I play. Divinity 2. We got lots of great games on the go at all times that we're talking about. Bloodborne. I'm bad at that game. To the point where I just don't like it. I just don't like. I don't think I was getting the feel of that game, but maybe I'll give it another shot. Maybe I'll give it another chance. I can be found at McBeardCH on Twitter, McBearded on Twitch, and McBeard on YouTube. Tomorrow, the day that you're probably getting this on your feed, if you're not listening to it live, Wednesday, April 18th, is my 1-year Twitch partnership anniversary. So we're streaming a long time. Greyboxer, you're looking for a horn or something to blow?
Yes.
You're looking for some sort of sound effect? It's been a wild year for sure. And we're going to be streaming a lot of Gwent tomorrow. We're going to be streaming all sorts of stuff. I'll stream all day. I'll stream until I get tired. I'll probably eat on stream. It'll just be a nice long day hanging out with you guys. So hopefully you guys can hang out with me as well. And otherwise, I'm streaming at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time generally. Once again, that's McBearded on Twitch. And we'll wrap this up. You can find the podcast on Twitter at Commander's Horn. And you can email us at commandershornpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for joining us today, my friends.
Until next time, this is Greyboxer.
And this is McBeard.
Best of luck.
On the path.